If you have been reading up on your games recently, a lot of talk has been focused about the Saboteur and especially the company behind it, Pandemic, who unfortunately has been closed down. But we are here to talk about the game itself. So how is the game? Is it any good? And was it a proper send-off for this game developer?
I would dare to say no.
Explain yourself.
I'm sorry, Pandemic. Well, the Saboteur is one of those games where I'm not really sure what to exactly feel about it, because there is a myriad of factors that's involved in is it actually a good game or not, and it's hard to decide at times when it comes to the Saboteur.
So taking out all the respect you have for the developer and its unfortunate demise, how is the Saboteur as a game?
Well, there's a couple of things with the Saboteur that's obviously problematic. It's, for example, the graphics of the game. Even though it's cool design and everything, it takes place in occupied Paris in the 1940s. And of course, nobody likes a Nazi. So the entire color palette of Paris is black and white. Until our hero, the Irishman, Sean, comes out of nowhere and starts liberating parts of Paris, and then they're lit up again, and the colors come back.
And a lot of lazy comparisons have already been drawn to Sin City style graphics.
It's not really that black and white. Somebody I think mentioned the Blob for the Wii, that you color a black and white world, and I think that's probably more fitting than calling it Sin City kind of graphics for the game. But the thing is that design is really cool, and the Paris is really beautiful. They put a lot of work into making it feel right, with all the buildings and the cars and the people and stuff like that. The thing is that though the graphics aren't really that advanced, and sometimes obviously low res textures. At times where I just want to facepalm myself because it's just so obvious. At some point early in the game that you're driving through these beautiful landscapes, and there's kind of cartoony feeling to it, that it's really green and lush, and then there's the mountains in the backgrounds, and they just look like huge blobs of low textures that somebody just dumped there. I'm not sure if that's a sign that the game wasn't really finished when EA decided to go for release, but there's a lot of stuff like that in the game. So the graphics aren't really all that, but the design is cool. That should be said. So it's you kind of have to put those two against each other.
So what kind of game is the Saboteur?
Well, it's a free roaming kind of GTA game, only set in Paris. And with that comes all the classic free roaming third person control problems, which I can't believe we're almost in 2010 here that people still run into the same issues that GTA 3 had for the PlayStation.
Like for instance?
Like for instance, just it's clumsy. And that goes also for GTA, so that's not just jumping on the Saboteur. But combat, even though they've tried to make that better than in other games with lock-on and it moves a bit slower, that still feels incredibly clumsy. They managed to fix shooting, but shooting has always been a huge problem with these kind of games. You can only always look at GTA itself, which can be quite hard to aim at times. And we have games like the Wheelman, which suffers from the same kind of stuff, and the all true crime games as well. In the Saboteur, they fix that with a very forgiving auto-aim. It just snaps onto target. And it's actually a clever solution to that problem. I think that was a good thing that other games should probably look to. But the driving feels okay. It's kind of slow because, well, it's cars in the 40s. It's not like you're going to get into a sports car and run in 200 miles an hour down the road. But, well, it's not really that impressive. It's sluggish when it comes to gameplay. You can climb over buildings, and Sean is very, very agile for the amount of alcohol that he puts into himself during the course of the game. But it's hardly the same feeling as in, for example, games like Infamous and Assassin's Creed 1 and 2.
And the whole build of the game is just you going out and sabotaging, like installations.
Yes, here's the entire concept of the game, which is also kind of problematic. The story is, as I said, about Nazi-occupied Paris in the 1940s, and you play this guy, this Irishman called Sean, he's a drunkard. He's a bastard, more or less, to a lot of people. He's a womanizer, and he's the entire story behind that, which is actually on the cover, so I'm not actually spoiling anything, that he wants vengeance on stuff that happens. You get to play through that in the beginning of the game, so I won't spoil exactly what happens. But he's an Irishman in Paris, and he hooks up with the French resistance, which talks a hilariously bad French comedy accent at times. But and then he goes around doing missions for them, also a lot of side missions, all that kind of free roaming, a lot to do, a lot to see, a lot to explore, blah blah blah, kind of stuff. But that's the main point. He liberates parts of Paris from the Nazis, because obviously the French couldn't do that themselves, so they have to have a drunk Irishman do it for them. That's kind of where we get into trouble with the concept, because yes, I know I come from a country which was never occupied during the Second World War, but I'm not really sure that I would have appreciated this, because Sean, he drives over people, poor innocent French people who are walking around feeling sad and all black and white, and here comes Sean in his car, drives them over.
So it's really insensitive towards the subject also of...
Maybe. I don't dare to say 100% that it is so, because I'm not French, but I guess it could be seen as that. And the story, it doesn't really know where to put himself. Is it an actual mature, kind of dark, gritty Nazi occupation story about a poor man and his drinking problems and vengeance problems and Nazi problems? Or is it a more... It's like the Nazis at times can be really, really like comic book characters. They're so over the top evil, and yes, they were, but not with these huge metal emblems on huge gates and everybody driving around in dark evil cars. You know, you mix that with the rest, it gets odd.
One of the things I noticed and actually surprised me about the Saboteur is that it has an age rating of 18. And I understand it, of course, because of the involvement of Nazi Germany. No questions
asked. And a lot of violence.
Yeah, that too. But besides that, it doesn't strike me as a game that's got an 18 plus, because to me it seems like your ordinary third-person action shooter. Is this a mature game?
It wants to be a mature game. First of all, there's the whole liberating of, as you said, they're Nazis, and Nazis are bad, and Nazis are evil, and they're very, very much about Nazism, and they're how they're terrorizing the people, but it's also, and this gets to me, that the Saboteur wants to be a mature game, and if you're going to do a mature 18 plus video game, you do it by adding naked breasts. Oh, yeah. And there's a lot of naked breasts in the Saboteur. It's actually to the point that the first couple of seconds of the game, you get to stare at boobies, which, of course, a lot of people won't complain about, but after a while it just gets old. And it gets to the point where in the options menu you can turn off the mature content, and that's the only part of the options menus that has a comment from Sean, like, oh, you're being so boring. Oh, that's the stuff. Ugh. Like, come on. Yeah. If I want an adult game, I just want one that takes me seriously, and that's kind of the problem with the Saboteur. You get, okay, boobies, I get it. That's fun. Yeah. Okay, let's choose some more people. And it has problems with the concept. It doesn't really know if it's a comic book fight against evil Nazis or kind of a history, dark, gritty drama in Nazi-occupied France. So I have a problem with that as well. But.
So I'm still kind of confused. Did you like the game or didn't you?
I don't know. I don't know how to feel about the Saboteur in the end. It's hard to make a review about it. In that sense, should you buy it? I don't know. It's a daring game. It is. I absolutely had fun times playing it, and I think it's a cool experiment, and the design is really cool. As a game, it's kind of broken in many parts when it comes to the controls and when it comes to the feeling of stuff like climbing, which is very important in the game. But yeah, I think it's a rememberable game from Pandemic, and I'm glad that they got to release it, that they just didn't cancel the project. I'm glad it's here, and I think if you're our age, around 30, and you like a bit more mature games, sure, give it a try. Absolutely. But if you just want the free roaming stuff, go buy GTA, or if you just want to kill people, buy Saints for it.
So an okay-ish
Okay-ish
send-off for Pandemic?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd pat them on the back for it, absolutely. But could have been more.